What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 5, Monday Night Football.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay guys, in this video, I'm going to give you my top DFS picks for this Monday Night Football showdown between the Indianapolis Colts and the Baltimore Ravens. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Oh, and good news guys, make sure to stay tuned to the very end of this video because we removed the box that was popping up and blocking the lineup. So now you can see a full lineup using these picks that we made in this video if you stay to the very end. Okay guys, let's take a look at this Monday Night Football showdown between the Indianapolis Colts and the Baltimore Ravens. So at the quarterback position, I'm just going to pay up for Lamar Jackson from the Baltimore Ravens. He's averaging 25 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 10.5 rush attempts per game. He scored 22, 20, and 37 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And he's going to be about 88% owned. So he's a chalk play here tonight. But this guy's got massive upside, projected at 23.2 fantasy points here tonight. He's 12,600 DraftKings salary. Vegas thinks there's going to be 46 points scored in this game, with the Ravens favored by 7.5. So that point spread's not terrible, within a touchdown or so. So I think Lamar Jackson will have to continue to produce throughout the game. So I like Lamar Jackson here versus the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. So although Vegas thinks that the Colts are going to fall behind, this is my favorite running back on the slate. I like Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts, and he's averaging 13.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 14.5 rush attempts per game and 3 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 35% owned, projected at 14.4 fantasy points here tonight. He's 9,800 DraftKings salary. Now, he scored 23 fantasy points last week off of 16 rush attempts and 3 pass targets. So he almost got 20 touches that game. I'm expecting him to get close or 20 touches or more in this one. And like I said, although Vegas thinks that the Colts are going to be behind in this game, hopefully he will only be trailing by a touchdown and Jonathan Taylor will still be able to run the ball. There's a little bit of risk in this pick if the Baltimore Ravens get out to a huge lead and then they have to abandon the run. But I think that's a risk worth taking because he is the best running back on the slate. So I like Jonathan Taylor here versus the Baltimore Ravens.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Now, if you're going to go with a running back from the Ravens, take a look at Latavius Murray. Now, he's averaged 8.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 11 rush attempts per game, but he scored 12 fantasy points last week off of 18 rush attempts. So those 18 rush attempts are pretty interesting, especially if the Ravens get off to a big lead here and they have to run the ball throughout the fourth quarter. And he's going to be about 28% owned, projected at 9.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's 7,400 DraftKings salary. So I think he makes sense in this game. Save a little bit of salary, and it could be a running game script. So I like Latavius Murray here versus the Indianapolis Colts. Now I just don't want you guys to forget about Nyheim Hines from the Indianapolis Colts. He's averaged 9.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.5 rush attempts per game and 4.5 pass targets per game. Now, he didn't have a good week last week, only scored 2 fantasy points off of 2 rush attempts and 2 pass targets, but he scored 19 fantasy points the week before that off of 6 rush attempts and 6 pass targets. He's going to be about 29% owned, projected at 9.9 fantasy points here tonight, and he's only $5,600 DraftKings salary. So this is an interesting play because he's involved in the passing game. So even if the Colts fall behind, Nyheim Hines can still be productive catching those balls out of the backfield. So I like Nyheim Hines here versus the Baltimore Ravens. So I know I just gave you pretty much all the running backs in the game, but they're all going to be almost evenly owned. So the field doesn't know who to play either. They're all going to be right around 30% owned. I think they all have a pretty good chance. They're all priced right for their upside. Their salary is all about what it should be. So there's no running backs that stick out on this slate. Just got to pick your favorite one or the one that fits into your lineup. Maybe spread the love around those 3 guys. Okay, so let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So the wide receiver stud is Marquise Brown from the Baltimore Ravens, and the Indianapolis Colts have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Marquise Brown has averaged 18.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 68% of the snaps. He touches the ball 16% of that time. He's going to be about 36% owned, projected at 13.9 fantasy points here tonight. Now, he's expensive. He's $11,000 DraftKings salary, but he does have the most upside out of any wide receiver on the slate by a pretty big margin. He scored 19 fantasy points last week off of 5 pass targets. And a couple weeks ago, he had 10 pass targets and scored 26 fantasy points. So he's got a good matchup here. He could be a good captain. So I like Marquise Brown here versus the Indianapolis Colts.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL. NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Now the stud wide receiver for the Colts is Michael Pittman Jr., and he's averaging 13.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting a ton of volume, averaging 9 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 92% of the snaps. He's going to be about 35% owned, projected at 13 fantasy points here tonight. He's $9,000 DraftKings salary, and because Vegas thinks that the Colts are going to be trailing by 7.5, this could be a passing game script, so I'm expecting double-digit targets. So I like Michael Pittman here versus the Baltimore Ravens. Now, if you want to save some salary at the wide receiver position and play a Baltimore Raven, take a look at Sammy Watkins. And he's averaging 10.4 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7.3 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 82% of the snaps. He's going to be about 37% owned, projected at 10.5 fantasy points here tonight. And he's only $5,800 DraftKings salary. So I think Sammy Watkins is my favorite value play on the slate. If you're looking for that value, a guy that's going to get 7 targets and has been scoring near double-digit fantasy points almost every single game in a great matchup. So I like Sammy Watkins here versus the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, let's take a look at the tight end position. So you got the stud on the slate, Mark Andrews from the Baltimore Ravens. He's averaging 11.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.3 pass targets per game. He's on the field for 74% of the snaps. He's going to be about 48% owned, projected at 13.3 fantasy points here tonight. He's 6,600 DraftKings salary. So I think if you're going to play Lamar Jackson, you could go with a Sammy Watkins and a Mark Andrews and end up fitting in a couple of other decent players. So I like Mark Andrews here versus the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, now if you want to save some salary at the tight end position, this is a sleeper pick or a value play. Take a look at Jack Doyle from the Indianapolis Colts playing the Baltimore Ravens, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the second most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Now, Jack Doyle has averaged 6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.8 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 12% owned, projected at 6.4 fantasy points here tonight. So Jack Doyle is only 2,600 DraftKings salary. So this is where your salary relief can come from, so you can fit in those other higher priced players. And with Vegas thinking that the Colts are going to be trailing by 7.5, Jack Doyle could get plenty of targets in this one. Now, he did only get 1 pass target last week. He got 2 pass targets the week before that, but he got 8 pass targets the week before that. So in terms of the season, averaging 3.8 pass targets per game, that's pretty good. And he's got a fantastic matchup here. So I like Jack Doyle as a value play here versus the Baltimore Ravens.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.